My name is Paul Mahoney and I'll be hosting the panel today. Thank you very much for joining us. The topic of the talk, the topic of the discussion, and hopefully there'll be some back and forth, some agreements and disagreements and a bit of banter, talking about buy to let versus build to rent. So that's the topic of the talk today. I suppose I'll just start off by introducing Property Summits and the panelists that you'll be hearing from today. So Property Summits is a group of 5 people, inclusive of myself, that we formed just over a year ago because we thought that between the 5 of us, we had quite a lot to offer to the industry. We're all very experienced, and we thought that we have some education to provide. We've done various events to date, in person and virtual. And I suppose I'll just introduce the panelists, and then that might make a bit more sense as to why we feel as though we've got something to offer. So first off is Richard Bush, CEO of Crowdlords, Richard, so I'm having a mind blank there, a crowdfunding platform for property investment, essentially. Is that fair to say, Richard?
Yeah, that's right. We raise finance for developers and landlords from the crowd using crowdfunding techniques, everything from senior lending through to equity for developments and rental properties.
Great. Thanks very much, Richard. Next is Tony Gimple. And Tony, would you like to, given that I did a terrible job of introducing Richard, would you like to introduce yourself?
Introduce myself, hey? All right, well, I'll introduce myself. I think you all know who I am. My name's Tony. And as Paul said, this is all about education. As a friend of mine said, you've tried the gurus, now try the Gora, which is white in Hindi, for those of you who don't get the joke. My role in this is to speak for 3 minutes on anything, including the stand-up routines, tax, the works. So, hand over that one now to Nick.
Nicholas to you.
Nicholas, sorry, old chap.
No, I don't mind. Nick's my friend, so Nicholas to you, Tony.
Thank you.
So, good stuff. Well, no, ultimately, I'm really excited to be part of Property Summits. Like Paul started off discussing, we're kind of sick of seeing people that have done a couple of dodgy HMOs sell expensive courses. The industry's plagued with misinformation, lots of different information, and we felt that we could take our many years experience combined, myself over 20 years experience investing in properties. I've been really full-time developing properties for probably 15 years, I'd guess. Built up a reasonable portfolio before that as just an investor, still keeping my day job, but ultimately trying to change the industry and give back and give people huge value for money. And our events are really just when we do charge for them, and a lot of them are free online and on Property TV, on Sky. When we do charge for them, it's just really to cover the costs of the day so that everyone can have informative networking, make some great connections, build their power team, and learn some education and feedback from us. But so I'm the owner of propertyforum.com. I'm also the owner of a development company called Red Brick. We develop mainly commercial to resi schemes. We've done a number of HMOs, we've done micro studio schemes, we've done care to residential schemes. So I come to the panel with huge amount of development expertise. And propertyforum.com is a free educational resource where you can download lots of different ebooks, chat in the forums. We do many news articles a week. Again, all educational and informative stuff to give back to the industry, try and improve the ethics of the industry, and to try and help people out there. So the final little bit is I've written Investing in International Real Estate for Dummies, which the panel are sick to death of hearing about. But that is what you'll get in a $5 course from anyone else in the industry for about 15 quid. And if you work with me, I'll give you one for free. So that's my bit. Sorry, guys, to bore you. But ultimately, you'll also get a bit of banter if you come to one of our events. We don't take ourselves too seriously. If you're lucky, we turn up on time and we have good fun doing it, but we definitely deliver quality, and we do turn up on time. Speaking for 4 out of the 5 of us anyway. And we certainly give good value. That's the idea, is that we're trying to help everyone out there, but I'll stop talking.
I'll apologise on John's behalf. He's actually doing some in-person seminars today. Yeah. So I believe he must be held up. He was doing them before and after this panel, so he hasn't been able to join us on time. But yeah, we generally are on time. As I mentioned my name, Paul Mahoney, before. I'm the founder and managing director of a company called Nova Financial Group, and we advise on buy-to-let investment. So all aspects of that, strategy, sourcing, funding, management, and then building a portfolio to improve your financial position. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We're qualified financial advisors who specialize in property. As I say, I myself am a qualified financial advisor and mortgage advisor. I've also written a book, which is a bestseller on Amazon in the UK and Australia, called The Property Pension Plan, and essentially just talks all about our methodology for buy-to-let.
Tony, when are you writing a book?
Sorry?
When are you writing a book?
Again?
And Richard?
No, I haven't got time to write.
I'm so sick of hearing about ours, you're going to have to write one.
No, that's all right. We'll just get the free publicity on the back of yours.
Yeah,
I live in a digital age, Nick.
Yeah, cool.
As opposed to just being aged. Awesome. Well, should we get this started on the buy-to-let versus build-to-rent?
I'm sure John will join us shortly. We'll introduce him in more detail then, but he's a very experienced property developer. So
Indeed.
Yeah,
the topic of the talk is quite relevant to the panel, I believe, because some of us sit on both sides of the discussion and some sit on one side. So I suppose we'll just start off, and I think probably of those that are with us right now, the best person to introduce what it is, I would say, is probably Nick. And if you could just introduce what is build to rent.
Yeah, build to rent. I mean, that's largely what we do. We keep at least 2/3 of what we build, and we let it out. Now, I'm always looking for opportunities to maximize that rental income, and ultimately then refinance out as much of the cash that we put into it initially as we can. I mean, that's all getting to the detailed strategy of it, but ultimately build to rent is building to let out and keep long term, and to build a long portfolio. I think when people get into property, they think of building this huge portfolio, and build to rent really is just that. It's just building a property portfolio. It's become a buzzword because bigger developers have started doing it. I think, the likes of bigger house builders building blocks, tower blocks, they're now turning to keeping those in their portfolios and renting out the individual units. And it's become a very viable strategy, especially when the sales market is not too strong. When the sales market is booming, my view is that people will tend to sell because they'll get a higher return quickly. They can turn their money around quicker into more sites. So I think it's been a bit of a sign of the times. The last few years have been a bit slow in property. The lead-in of reselling units has been slower than we would like, with the Brexit, of course, with the election leading up to that kind of time frame, all before Christmas 2019, just over a year and a half ago now. And I think that caused a lot of developers and a shift in the market a bit more to this build to rent, where, we can't sell them anyway, so we've got to keep them. So that was kind of one of the reasons why people started to turn to this strategy. Bigger house builders tended to. And I think, without slurring and covering the entire topic in 5 minutes, I think some of the changes in tax, which Tony can touch upon, Section 24, changes in the industry, changes of affordability, changes of market demands have driven that opportunity to become more interesting and more exciting than it would have been originally. So I think hopefully that gives a bit of a summary of what build to rent is and how it's come about in the market.
And there's also a major change since COVID, since Brexit, the whole one nation state. Section 24 has had an effect. We've seen a lot of people panic. I was saying to Tracy before we started, just how busy it's been during lockdown. You've got a CGT death cycle potentially, a lot of different solutions out there. But with what is going to ultimately become a different, hopefully more caring society, the changes in corporation tax are really starting to have an impact on that. Social housing, build to rent, tax breaks moving towards development for the right sectors. In fact, there was one of the local councils, I think Stafford, they're now looking to pay up to £30,000 in deposits to get people out of bed and breakfast and into proper housing. It's cheaper, it's better, much more wholesome. So the build to rent sector, I suspect, will see massive growth. Lease backs to local authorities. Then we need to build 90,000, I think, social housing units a year. Add that to the 350 odd thousand shortfall across the board in ordinary housing. So there is going to be a lot more of the accidental landlords selling up whilst the market's high, hopefully not going broke in the process. And then you'll see the larger, more professional sector coming in to build much better units, co-living, cohabitation, a whole different way, and more sustainable in every conceivable way thereafter.
All right, thanks, Tony. I think we should come back to the CGT death cycle at some point.
Yeah.
My ears up. But Richard, do you want to touch on the other side of the discussion, being buy-to-let?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to do that. I mean, we do find that a lot of people are coming to us now for funding, and they've got experience as landlords, and they want to pretty well follow the strategy that Nick is talking about, whereby they can develop a build-to-rent property, refinance it, and get the money out and do another one. And that's what is attracting people to move from buy to let to build to rent, is this ability to release capital because of the value add of the conversion. But it requires a completely different skill set. And again, I think Nick will have much to add here, in that to be a good landlord is very different to being a developer. And the risk, I think, of people being attracted to that strategy is that it does require a different skill set. It requires a different passion. And the risk profile is very different. So just because you've been successful as a buy-to-let landlord, it doesn't mean that you are the right sort of person or that you can do it on your own. You probably need support or mentorship or assistance from outside to make that transition from being a landlord to effectively being a developer. And it is a different challenge. In terms of buy-to-let, I think you've got the greatest knowledge in that area out of all of us, but we still see people coming to our platform for funding for buy-to-let, and it is getting more and more difficult. The lenders are being tighter in how much they're lending, and that's another reason why people are looking to build to let, because the capital requirement is often less to start with, and you can borrow more. So.
Yeah, and I suppose just to expand on some of what you said there, Richard, I think it does all depend on the individual. Yeah. And not just the individual, but also the sort of stage that they're in the whole process, as far as actually understanding property, the resources they have available to them, and that often reflects on their risk profile. We certainly meet with a lot of people who just want to make as much money as quickly as possible. And that often leads them to the build to rent path. But if they've got no spare time, very little money, and no experience, that's obviously not right for them. Yeah. Because they're going to take more risks, they're going to need more resources, they're going to need a lot more time. A lot of the people, again, that we meet with, for example, are professionals. They're busy. They're either professionals or business owners, and their family takes up the balance of their time. If that's the case, you're a passive investor and you've got no other option because you've got no spare time. Yeah. But if you do have spare time, if you do have experience, if you've been investing in property for a number of years, you're willing to take a bit more risk and learn along the way, because, obviously, again, Nick and John, if he ever joins us, can weigh in on this, on the fact that I'm sure they've made lots of mistakes over the years and they've learned from them, and now they're better than they were in the past. You can't expect to jump all those steps. So, I think it very much comes down to the individual. And I suppose my opinion on it would be that you want to have a bit of property experience under your belt before you go down the build to rent path.
Yeah. I mean, there's different options out there, isn't it? And I actually work on my mentoring program with people that don't have the experience or necessarily the time. So, it's about picking the right team around you if you don't have the team around you to do it. So each specific person is different. I work with people that have got the money but not the time. I've got people with the time without the money. So, working with them, it's teaching them different things. It's either how to go and raise finance, how to work with people like Richard or traditional lenders on the finance side to go and finance it, and then how much they need as deposit. to go and do what they want to do. But they've got all the time in the world to run the sites when they do it. So then maybe they just need a bit more hands-on practical mentoring to get them going. Whereas there are others that I run their sites for them entirely, ultimately with my whole team. So yeah, very much it's important that people understand what they want to do, what their goals are, that they treat their property like a business. That's we should have that as our strapline, chaps. Treat your property as a business. That should be like our, what do you call it? Strapline, tagline, whatever.
I'll write it down, Nick.
Write that down. Let's adopt that, because so many people don't. They are either accidental landlords, they fall into certain thing, they find themselves stressed, overworked, still tying down the day job, or they actually think they can jump into property after a couple of buy-to-lets and they don't really understand what's needed in terms of the funding, the financing, the tax and the strategy and the corporate structure, which is Tony's expertise. And I'm always keen to get my clients to speak to Tony on that side of things, because getting the foundations right, you don't want to go off on tangent and find out your inheritance tax is, absolutely screwed 10 years down the line. So all of this pieces together, and what we try and do at Property Summits is, show people the types of things they need to be thinking about for their own strategy, isn't it? It's about understanding the elements that make it up, so that they can de-risk their own journey, I guess.
Yeah, we're looking at any government would like to be able to say they've been planning changes in the rental market for years. They haven't. They tend to be reactive, get themselves elected. But some things, like George Osborne, the wonderful tenant tax, they needed to raise revenue. They needed to buy votes, and that is very much coming home to roost now. You are seeing people leave the market. You are seeing people who haven't taken all-round advice, trying to sell up on the high and paying massive amounts in tax across the board. Standalone incorporation, is it the way to go for a buy-to-let landlord? Not necessarily. And all right, whilst there truly is no one size fits all, you've got to look at where they are now, what they want to achieve, and if at all possible, dissuade them from going into being a landlord in the first place. Actually, I've just come up with a title for the book, Nick. It's Tenants and Toilets Are Hard Work. Perfect. Somebody write that one down.
Big seller, Tony. It's a big seller. I can see it.
Perfect. Love it.
Usual terms and conditions apply. Sorry?
And toilets.
You need to spend the next 9 months of your life writing it.
Yeah. I just need a ghost author just to sit there and get inside my head. No, don't do that. They'll probably have
to. Ed right mile, Tony.
Toxic. Yeah. No, we're seeing big social changes, and since Brexit and the Commonwealth coming into play with the G7 starting, there's massive opportunities with the Commonwealth, India in particular, who are looking for inward and outward bound investment to build almost the best Marigold Hotel type concept, end-to-end communities, birth through to reincarnation for that market, where you've got all the cultural ties, you've got everything on site, people co-living, I think as it's called now, with the social housing build, with local authorities, strapped for cash, and then looking at lease backs, the smaller buy-to-let landlord will have problems, and that'll open up the space for the larger build to rent market, where there are still plenty of tax breaks and no doubt more to come. So it very much will professionalize as a sector.
Yeah, whether it's planned by the government or not, that's what's happening. It's professionalizing the sector, and more than ever, you need to treat your property like a business, treat it seriously. I think there's less place to be able to buy 1 or 2 buy-to-lets and make it work that well. You've kind of got to do it a bit more now, whether it's built to rent or whether it is building a slightly larger portfolio. Those government controls, the cynicists amongst us might suggest the government is trying to put in these measures to push it more towards a bigger corporate rental market, and then therefore rent controls. You know, we've heard that bounded around recently, and I believe there's a petition floating around right at the moment, so it's worth jumping on the government's petition website about rent controls, because they want to push it to the bigger operators and then control them. So it's about controlling a handful of bigger operators than millions, hundreds of buy-to-let operators. But that's the cynical view. In any event, it seems to be going that way.
Can somebody update John's invite, please? Because he's literally just WhatsApped me.
Okay, John is trying to join now.
Good.
I can just give my take on that with regards to, you know, I don't necessarily think that a shift toward build to rent or corporate, you know, bigger corporates is going to make it harder for individual landlords that, you know, the people who are looking at getting, you know, 5 to 10 properties to provide for their retirement.
Yeah.
In my view, that's still a very viable option. People who want 50 to 100,000 pounds of income so that they can retire at some point and not have to rely upon a traditional pension or the government pension, which, you know, surely won't exist in the near future. But things like that. I think that can still very much work in the right circumstances. It's something that is not as sort of easy. It's not as easy as it was 5+ years ago, because it's not about buying the house at the end of your street and making loads of money. But if you're very selective and you have the right strategy in mind, you can still do very well from that sort of thing. And I don't think those people are going to be blown out of the water like some people are saying they're going to be.
No, I didn't mean to say it wasn't viable entirely. I just think it needs to be treated like a business from day one. Whereas before you could get away buying a handful of properties and it'll work well. Now you've actually got to have the right tax corporate structure set up. You've got to plan it properly. So yeah, so I wasn't sort of saying it wasn't totally unviable. You know.
Agree.
Welcome, John.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm never late for any meeting. As you know, a very wealthy person said to me many years, and I said, how do I make a lot of money? He said, always get to every meeting 10 minutes early. And I normally do, but I've been doing, as you know, 3 days of seminars, and I've broken off from the seminar. I've cancelled my lunch in order to be able to take part in this wonderful event. So I'm hoping someone's going to bring me back a sandwich a bit later, and we start again in the seminar at 2 o'clock. So I'm delighted to be with you. How are we getting on so far? Who's fallen out with who?
I've done the political broadcast bit, John. So
okay, we can ignore that then. So I'm sorry I'm late, by the way.
Well, would you like to just introduce yourself? Because that's what we started with. We've had a bit of a debate back and forth, but I think it's worth everybody knowing who you are if they don't know you.
Absolutely. Well, not many people know me, I think, with my social media. So I'm John Howard. I've been a property developer and investor for 40 years. And bought and sold around 4,000 properties during that time. There's not much I haven't invested in. There's not much I haven't bought to convert into flats or houses. And this year, recently, I've launched a joint venture fund where other people can bring their property deals to me, and I will help fund them by putting in the deposit they may not have and organising the senior debt, perhaps through Richard's crowdfunding platform or another, and oversee the project with them and share the profit 50-50.
Wonderful. That's John Howard.
Next, it is.
That's John. So, you know, I suppose between the five of us, I think hopefully everyone would agree that we've got a bit to offer. We've got lots of experience, years and years of experience, and slightly different takes on different things as well. So we don't always agree, as you've kind of half seen already. Yeah, we all do get along and certainly have a mutual respect for each other.
So, John, looking at the main subject of the day, which is, you know, buy to let versus build to let.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen it on both sides: developer, landlord, auctioneer, estate agent. Works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, where do you see it?
Well, I always bend towards more profit and more work in order to get more profit, to be fair, in many occasions. And this is one of them. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with someone who's very busy investing in buy-to-lets, which are already, you know, oven ready, if you like, ready to let. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And if someone's got a good income and they can every year they can put some of that income towards a deposit in order to buy one, you can keep buying one a year, fantastic. If on the other hand, they can't do that, or they want to get more hands-on, then certainly there's nothing wrong with developing a property, to create a buy-to-let investment. And of course, by doing that, you get 2 bites of the cherry, or you should do. The first profit should be in the fact that you're buying and doing all the hard work yourself. So there should be a profit in doing that, and that might be, you know, a 20% discount, if you like, to the value of the property in the end. So by developing and having all the, you know, it's hassle. We know it's hassle, but as the saying goes, where there's money. In the same way with property, you know, if you're going to put the effort in and roll your sleeves up and organise all the building work, or, you know, and sort it all out yourself, you deserve to make some more money than the person who's just bought a buy-to-let off the shelf, if you like. So hopefully, if you develop it yourself, you've got the developer's profit, if you like, and then of course you've then got the buy-to-let profit going forward as well. And more importantly than that, once you've built it and let it, you can refinance it immediately, and then go and do the same thing again. Whereas if you've got a great job earning a lot of money, you haven't got time to do that. All you can do really is take advice from people like Paul and so on, and actually, you know, buy an oven-ready investment, which is perfectly well. In over 20, 25 years, it will grow immensely. But it's not as exciting, or if you like, and not as profitable initially as actually getting your hands dirty, if you like, and doing the development yourself.
The other factor I think that sprung to mind when Tony was talking was that what renters are expecting is changing, and the people that are renting is changing as the years go by. So a property that was an ideal rental property 20 years ago is not necessarily the appropriate property for the market that you're targeting today. And one of the advantages of building your own or developing or converting your own property is that you can tailor it to your particular market to work, to function in the way that your target audience wants to, you know, is looking for. Whether you're targeting social renters or whether you're targeting young professionals, you know, you can get your product exactly right. So as well as the additional profit that you get from the conversion, you should make it more profitable because it's a better product at the end of the day for your particular target audience. So
I totally agree with that, Richard. And the reason I totally agree with it is my portfolio I've got, which I've had for many, many years, and I've grown it slightly over the years, is looking very dated. Hopefully I'm not, but my portfolio is.
You are.
Thank you. And I knew that was coming. And I've actually got to, you know, step up a bit and actually change some of my investment stuff and refurbish it, because the standard, whatever everybody wanted 30, 40 years ago, and the standard they would accept is nothing like it is now. Now they want it to look like a hotel room.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it has changed. And I've learned very much. I haven't learned that much from you, Richard, in terms of what the property should look like. But I've certainly learned from Paul the younger elements of our Property Summits team, because I've learned from Paul and Nicholas that I've got to, I'm a bit of a dinosaur. My properties look old fashioned, they're dated, and I need to spend quite a lot of money, you know, million or two probably over the next 2 or 3 years, updating my stock.
Are you taking down the no dogs, no Irish, no?
I'm taking all those things, all those things down. I'm taking all those down now. I've seen the light. Hallelujah.
The bright orange 60s curtains in the lounges.
Yeah. They might come back in fashion. I was going to leave them.
Orange chair.
The thing to add to that, guys, is obviously you don't need to build your own properties to buy good properties. You can buy ready-made properties that are tailored to the market by good developers.
Of course.
And
yes,
it all goes back to what I was saying before. It depends on the individual as to what's the right thing for them. I think we're running out of time here, though, guys. So I think what is worth doing before we finish up is just a bit of a plug for our in-person event that's coming up in July. So July the 15th, it's a full-day event. Feel free to jump in here, guys, if I miss anything. But it's a full-day event. I'm told by the website that it's in 50 days, 7 hours, 44 minutes, and 35 seconds.
Wow.
Don't be late.
So write that down in your diary right now. It's on our website, which is propertysummits.com. The title of the day is 2021 and Beyond, Stepping into a New World of Property Investing. Great. That's excellent. Who's done that? But thank you.
I've just shared my screen. I don't know if everyone's...
that's very kind.
I thought I was going to get into trouble again because something went wrong. Clearly not.
I'm not sure if I can see them on the screen or not, but if you can't, check out the website, propertysummits.com. And come along. I think it's great value. We've got lots of guest speakers There's lots that you'll take away from that. You know, I'm very, very confident in saying that. You know, on our previous
I think, you know, it's a professional event run by professionals for other professionals who may not be in the property business at the moment. Some may be, which is great, and others might be looking to get involved in property. And I think, you know, Tony, by the way, has done a brilliant job here. I feel very guilty because I've done very little to organise it. But Tony has done a wonderful job. We've got a fantastic venue. Anyone who used to go to the Allsops auctions, which are now online, of course, knows the venue. It's a very special historical venue in London. And we've got a great lineup of people, you know, like Paul said. And we've got tickets selling shortly, haven't we, Tony? When did they wait?
No,
they're released now.
They're released now. Yeah.
Great, because I've got a few people on my seminar who are very keen to come to that as well. So I'm delighted. Great.
Via the trade bodies.
Yeah, but I think there's obviously lots of good free information available. I think in my mind, this is kind of the next step.
I agree. Yeah.
There's more you'll take away from this, I would say, than free events.
I think the point of the event as well is that there's networking. You know, we've got, you know, 2 to 400 people, depending on how many book tickets. Hopefully 400 guys. Come on, get on there now. Genuinely, anyone watching now, just log on to propertysummits.com, book a ticket, because it is limited. The venue is limited in capacity, and we hope to run out. And ultimately, networking on the day with your peers, with other professionals. There'll be guest speakers on the day. We've got some high-profile guest speakers joining us, so it's not just us 5. There's panel debates. We all do an individual presentation on the day on our particular area of expertise.
And Nicholas, can I just say a couple of things that really drive me mad? There's no upsell. This isn't some event trying to sell a bigger event. We don't do that. We're professional people. And I tell you now, it's very rare that Tony Gimple will ever buy anybody lunch, and lunch is included, as is coffee in the morning and afternoon tea. So there we go.
Yeah, free. Well, not free afternoon tea, but it's very cost effective.
My wife said that she ended up
all included in the purchase price.
I buy too many lunches.
All right, guys, before we get shuffled on, I think we should finish up there. Thank you very much to my fellow panelists. And thanks very much to everybody who has listened in today. Please do check out our website, check out the event. You know, I can give you my personal guarantee that you'll take value from it. And thanks very much. I suppose we'll finish up there.
See you all in the flesh soon. Take care.
See you soon, everyone. Take care.